So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the launch of Meridian 180 at UNSW Sydney. My name is Fleur Johns and I'm the Academic Director of Meridian 180 at UNSW and also a Professor here in the Law School. And I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Bedegal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of the land, the unceded land on which we meet. I'd like to pay my respects to their elders past and present, and to extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders in the room today. And in that context, I'd particularly like to acknowledge the ongoing work of my colleague, Professor Megan Davis, and a number of colleagues, our Pro-Vice Chancellor Indigenous here at UNSW, who have been working for a number of years to try and install a First Nations voice in the Constitution and in our Parliament. Your coming here today is an exercise of trust. Most of you will not be familiar with Meridian 180, and yet in your case, you have not allowed that unfamiliarity to overcome your curiosity. You have shown yourself to be open to the unknown and interested in entering into dialogue with people from different disciplines, different professional worlds, perhaps people from a different primary language group. This is exactly the kind of curiosity that drives Meridian 180. Later this morning, you'll be hearing from the founder of Meridian 180, Annalise Riles. Annalise is going to explain to you how the project got going and the kinds of collaboration it's designed to foster. And it may be that even after hearing Annalise, that you still find the whole thing a little bit offbeat. Perhaps you're expecting today to hear about the launch of a new think tank. And it is sometimes the case that Meridian 180 is described as a virtual think tank. But as you'll learn, this doesn't just involve conventional think tank types. And this isn't restricted to a limited range of policy questions. People are working within Meridian 180 on everything from the future of nuclear energy to the future of central banks, from data governance to democracy. Perhaps you're expecting us to be launching a centre for industry and academic collaboration, and Meridian 180 is definitely that too. But if you happen to look through the archive of multilingual discussions that have been hosted on the Meridian 180 platform in 4 languages, you'll find that those have involved writers and artists, anthropologists and economists, bankers and scientists, policymakers and historians, regulators, a wide range of people. And many of those discussions have been really quite exploratory and speculative, not necessarily generating any quick fixes for the problems with which they are concerned. Perhaps the best way, I think, to get a handle on what we're trying to create here at UNSW Sydney through Meridian 180 and also at its bases in Korea, Japan and the US is to participate in the 4 conversations we have organised for today. Those conversations involve a number of people who've been really key figures in Meridian 180 to date. As I mentioned, the founder of the project and director of the Buffett Institute of Global Studies at Northwestern University, where she's also Associate Provost for Global Affairs in Chicago, Annalise Riles, also the director of the Korean base at Ewha Women's University in Seoul, Eunice Kim, a member for a number of years of the project's Global Advisory Council, Robert Chu, and members of its newly established Advisory Council here at UNSW, Penny Burt and Veronica Taylor, and a number of colleagues here at UNSW have been absolutely instrumental in bringing Meridian 180 to Sydney, Rob Brooks, Bronwyn Morgan, and the project manager, Noel Fegan. And I'll acknowledge others later in the day who've been key to this. But these conversations also involve people who are entirely new to the project and who, despite all that's already on their plates and all that they've accomplished in the worlds that they typically inhabit, said when we asked, Yes, I'll give that a try. That kind of inclination, not just to double down on what you know and do already, but to double up on what you don't, takes humility, energy, optimism, courage, and yes, trust. And all of these things in various settings seem rather depleted today. Of course, it's understandable that people prefer often to nestle in what is familiar and least threatening. It's important that people find new ways to connect with those known best to them and with whom they feel most close. And it's obviously vital that people pursue advanced knowledge in very specialised topics, and that requires a degree of single-mindedness. But the impulse to stick entirely with what and whom one already knows, and to be distrustful of and disinterested in what and whom one doesn't, this has a very dark side as well. Trust me, not those people over there. This is the kind of mantra that we hear from a growing number of community and political leaders on virtually every continent. The populist asks for unconditional trust. The authoritarian treats a questioning as a form of disloyalty. Of course, there are many who are resisting calls to fear and to hate and to distrust, and we're also very trusting in new ways. We're extending our trust to a wide range of new intermediaries with whom we share our data and on whom we rely for our daily needs. And at the same time, we're withdrawing trust from many conventional repositories of it. It's as if the portfolio of trust that we all maintain individually and collectively is undergoing quite dramatic change. And there is a lot at stake in that change. So we're establishing Meridian 180 here at UNSW Sydney in order to help work with others against impulses to wall up and dive deeper into one's silos, or become less curious and more rigid in one's thinking in the face of these kinds of changes. We want to enable people to work together on things that are very important to them with others with whom they might never otherwise cross paths, even those with whom they share no common language. And we think this requires new forms of intellectual, political, and social infrastructure, and Meridian 180 is a very exciting version of that infrastructure, as I hope you'll get a sense of by the end of today. Now, one person who has had a lot of experience in navigating trust and distrust in our region, in our world, is the person from whom we're going to be hearing first today, the Honourable Julie Bishop. As you know, Julie Bishop has served as the member for Curtin in the Federal House of Representatives since 1998, and as you well know, Ms Bishop was the first female Foreign Minister for this country between 2013 and 2018, after serving 4 years in the Shadow Ministry for Foreign Affairs. Ms Bishop also served as Minister for Education, Science and Technology, Minister assisting the Prime Minister for Women's Affairs, and Minister for Ageing. And before her distinguished career in politics, Ms Bishop was a very successful leading figure as a commercial litigation lawyer in this country. Now, Ms Bishop has generously agreed to share her insights today for about 20 to 30 minutes, but also then to accept questions from the floor. So I would ask you as you listen to think about some questions that would make the most of this valuable opportunity and store those away for later. One further thing to note is that you'll be seeing in a moment that we have a Twitter hashtag for today. And Ms Bishop, as a further mark of generosity, has agreed that attribution of her remarks are okay, and I'm conscious that there are members of the media here today. But at the conclusion of our discussion with Ms Bishop, we will revert to the customary terms of discussion for Meridian 180, which is we will revert to Chatham House rules. So I'd ask you, by all means, tweet about the project, your impressions, the event in general, but please do not attribute views or remarks to any one person in particular in your disclosure of this online. So without further ado, and with great, great pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Honourable Julie Bishop.